This video will show you some slightly more advanced diagnostics for your lithium-ion battery. If you have your digital multimeter here, set it onto the 20 volt DC scale, and I've got the battery end cap opened up. We just undid the 4 screws and opened it up. We have the key in the on position right now, and we're double checking the voltages at the discharge port to make sure things make sense there. The discharge is wired up with some kind of confusing color codes. Over here the switch is switching on ground. You can see our discharge ground wire black here and our discharge power wire red here. The discharge ground wire comes into here, and it's wired into the switch, and then on the other end of the switch is the output for that. So you can see it comes from black, and then there's a red piece, and then it comes into the switch as red, and then it exits the switch as yellow and connects onto the discharge here. So if we wanted to see if our discharge contacts are maybe having a problem, if we can't read good voltage on the outside, we can read them from the inside here. You see we have 52 volts. Note that I have my leads reversed there, so red is red and yellow is black here. 52.7 volts, so that looks pretty good. If that wasn't looking right, we'd follow it back a little further, make sure that our key is on, and we can measure it at the input for the switch. So the input for the switch here is the red wire on the switch. Make sure you can see that. You see on the input for the switch this red wire here. And so that red wire is actually ground coming into the switch. And then connect that up to the red discharge output, and you can see 52 volts again. If we're having a problem with the input to the switch, not getting good voltage, then we would want to follow it a little bit further back. And one thing you might want to do is visually inspect, make sure that the red discharge output wire that you were using is not broken down here on the contacts, because we were using that for part of our test. Make sure that the wire coming into the switch is looking all right, looking for stuff that's frayed. And if you're still having trouble, we need to dig in a little deeper, take the foam off, want to upend our battery carefully, and we want to start opening up the insulator here. Do that with a sharp knife, and we need to cut this hot glue back, and be careful when we're doing this, because there is no way to shut this battery off except at the switch. So you need to be mindful of where your knife is going. You don't want to be cutting any wires right now. You just want to be removing the glue. Also, don't cut too deep, because underneath here is our BMS circuit board, and we don't want to damage that. So just enough to get this glue peeled back. And once you have enough glue off that you can pry the insulator up, you can remove that. You can remove the foam pad and reveal the BMS circuit board below. Now, once you get to the BMS board, we have a couple other test points. So let me see if I can realign the camera so that you can see it a little better. Thanks for bearing with me. Now we're looking at the BMS board here, and we can test a couple of other things to be sure. that the battery is functioning properly. There's a little bit of glue left at the bottom here, so let me see if I can scrape that away so you can see these test points. Okie dokie. So, if you have some ground points here. If you want to double check the charger, you can trace the charger's fuse back here. And this charging port has a bladed fuse that you might want to test. You can verify that the charging port is working with your meter on the outside, or you have the negative charging contact on the board there, and you can go into the center of the charging plug, and you should read a voltage difference. You can see my meter here, so we can trace that back. From the discharge, you got the red wire here for the discharge, and you should see a difference between that red wire and the ground up here, as well as the ground down here, and the one in the back there. This is a good time to check the connection for these ground wires if you're getting strange voltage readings. So you can see the discharge ground wire that is, yellow at the discharge plug, red before the switch, and then black where it connects to the board. You can see it's soldered to the board right down there. I'm going to make sure that it is connected and doesn't appear to be damaged in any way. Make sure that everything looks all right with it. And then that is about the extent of the testing that you can do. There is another video that will show you a little bit about how to test the balance resistors here, and that would be another check.